All right, let's get on to some topics from the week. I'm going to start by looking at the trial surrounding Musk's 2018 tweets. These are the tweets that he had surrounding him saying he had funding secured, in quotes, to take Tesla private at surprisingly a price of $4.20 per share. And the investor support at the time was confirmed. Now, shareholders are suing Tesla, the CEO of Tesla, as well, under federal security law over his 2018 tweets, which they allege were false and misleading statements that caused them to get into financial harm and losses. The courts, it's important to point out, have already deemed that the tweets are untrue. The investors seek to hold Musk and Tesla's board members liable for damages. Now, Musk sent out the now infamous tweet on August 7th, 2018. The exact tweet of primary interest was, "Am considering taking Tesla private at $4.20. Funding secured." He followed up with a subsequent posting reading, "Investor support is confirmed. Only reason why this is not certain is that it's contingent on a shareholder vote." This was the other tweet referenced in the court documents. Now, just prior to the tweet, Tesla's market cap was roughly 50 billion. After the tweet, it surged to roughly 65 billion plus, in that range. Now, the surge in the share price cost Tesla short sellers hundreds of millions of dollars when they were forced thereafter to cover their positions by purchasing Tesla securities at artificially inflated prices, read the initial 2018 complaint. Important notes from here. Again, the court in the shareholder suit has instructed jurors to assume Musk's declarations of quote unquote funding secured and investor support is confirmed, that they are untrue. Additionally, Musk has already settled with the SEC over the matter and paid a $20 million fine and relinquished his board chairman of Tesla, which paid a $20 million fine of his own as well. Musk has defended himself over the claims his tweets were false, saying last year that he did have funding lined up at the time from the Saudi Public Investment Fund, which Musk said had committed unequivocally to taking Tesla private. In his testimony this past week, he is now trying to assert with his stake in SpaceX, which is now around 43%, that alone would be enough to cover the funding. Now, SpaceX at the time and still remains private. And I think that this assertion feels very disingenuous, as if he would have then been able to secure 65 plus billion by either selling his stake or against maybe his stake in that private firm for a multitude of reasons. I would say it's disingenuous, including the fact that the stake at the time was simply not worth enough in real cash on a sale. I would also suggest that had he informed investors he was to liquidate all his stake to take Tesla private, the value of SpaceX would have likely dropped. Now, Musk has also previously said that not all believe his tweets, and that Twitter's character limit does not allow for comprehensive statements, even if they are truthful. Well, perhaps the answer then is to stop communicating ultra important information via this medium. I think that would be fairly simple. Now, my thoughts here, again, in the end, Musk looked very uncomfortable in his testimony and appears like a man desperately trying to backtrack and explain away unserious behavior for what is serious business. I say own it. The statements were irresponsible and just flat out untrue. They cost investors money. Yes, they were short sellers, but that does not matter what you think about them. You cannot lie or basically commit fraud to hurt them. End of story. Pay the piper and move on would be my advice to Musk at this point.
Right.
I'm sure he's not taking it.
So so to clarify, it's short sellers that are suing him. They were short the stock and they presumably got squeezed out. And then, of course, after that, Tesla did go on to do very well and go well beyond 420 in the market. But I think that, to me, that like the bigger thing here is just, as you were saying, there's a certain level of responsibility that you have when you're the CEO or when you're the chairman of a public company, particularly one the size of Tesla, but really any public company. And I've talked to some people that have thought like, well, it's no big deal. It's a tweet. People say things, but when you look at the bigger picture, like what essentially is happening here, or did happen, or could have happened, is you have the CEO of a company who is saying something that is not true, that then drives the price of the shares up. And this CEO is directly incentivized by that. Either there's part of the compensation that is going to be tied towards the share price. Also, in the case of Elon Musk, he owns shares, right? And the CEO is expected to have information that the rest of the market does not have, right? So just even putting Elon Musk aside, just think of other CEOs running around saying things that are patently false in order to drive their share price up. Like, should they not be responsible for that? And of course, Elon Musk, I remember at the time, he made the point where he's just like, well, the only reason they're making a big deal out of this is because I'm Elon Musk. And, whoever, there's this big pool at the SEC to see who gets the Elon Musk account. And that's like the highlight of their lives. And it's like, yes, with all that power and all that visibility from being a major owner and the CEO and the chairman of one of the largest, most important companies in the world, yes, you are held to a higher standard. And I would also say that the excuse, like the defense that, like, yes, I broke the rule. Yes, I did something I shouldn't have done, but other people have done that in the past as well. That's not a defense, right? I mean, you're going to be held with the visibility.
Two wrongs don't
exactly. It's certainly not a defense, ridiculous. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Right. It's just the type of defense you would expect from a child, right? So to me, it's like, yeah, you made a huge error, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Own it, be responsible for it. You're one of the richest, most powerful people, most visible people, influential people in the world. You can't just go around saying whatever you want on Twitter and expect there to be no consequence. So.
And it seems pretty apparent that the funding was not signed. It was not secured. It was stated it's secured. So whether or not, the SEC is everybody at the SEC is trying to make a name by pursuing this. Of course they are.
I'm sure they are. I mean, that's always how it is when there's when there's somebody who is famous. Like, obviously there's going to be more to gain by pursuing that. There's also more to gain, like, not just individually for the investigators, but just to make a point that the SEC is out there enforcing the rules, as opposed to it's a nobody. Well, maybe that flies under the, under the radar a little bit, right? Or if
the wrong,
it doesn't excuse any. It's like, if you commit fraud, you can't be like, yeah, but other people have committed fraud in the past and they got away with it, so that was okay that I committed. Like, it's not a defense.
In our case, if this was a small cap, a mid cap, a large cap, company CEO comes out and says, funding is secured, we're going private at this price to go private, and then it was a false, like, we would call it white collar crime, and like, you made it,
and we would be right.
Yeah, and we would be. I'm not sure why there are any excuses for what went on here at all. I mean, people try to make excuses for.
Well, I mean, I think that whenever you have somebody who's famous, he has his sycophants, and they just will defend anything that he does.
Yeah,
right? I mean, he's also become a very politically polarizing figure. So anybody who wants to play that political side of the fence is going to either support everything that he does or the opposite, right? But in this case, he was clearly wrong.
We'll see what happens here, but it seems fairly cut and dry that if there were losses that were incurred because of this statement, he may have to make some of them whole. I mean, that's what may end up happening here, or Tesla may be held responsible, one of the two. And we'll see. We'll follow what happens in this case. But, it was irresponsible not taking a serious situation seriously. And then, it goes on to the 420 comment.
If I could,
he says, "Oh, it's because it was 20% above and we rounded up."
Yeah,
and
there's no chance.
I mean, it's doing something. He's unserious, and this is serious. And you got to play within certain rules. You may think those rules are crap or whatever you think on them. Then change the rules before you do and conduct yourself in this manner. And those.
Well, I don't know what rule you could argue.
I'm not
there.
sure.
I don't know. You
shouldn't
state untrue things that are gonna
influence
the share price.
Anything the price
are not true, and then directly benefit you personally financially. I mean, that's it's pretty cut.
Well, I could have had the money. Well, is there a signed contract, and are you going private at that price? No. Well, then these statements are false. So.
And yeah, for him to say that 420 wasn't a joke, like he said on the stand here, I think you're being misled here, sir. 420 was not chosen as a joke. It was chosen because it was 20% premium over the Tesla stock price, like you said, Ryan, where he came in, and offered to buy Twitter out at $54.20. I'm sorry. There's 420 in there. This is just Elon Musk being Elon Musk. He is such a troll. I think that he's joking around, yeah, that's my at least thought on the price.
Well, the joke seems to have been on him.
It's cases. Starting to be back on him. Elon will be fine, but let's not shed a tear for him in any of this. But, it just, like we said, if we had recommended a company, if a CEO came out with these type of statements and they were false and misleading, we would be, ripping them to shreds. And that should happen in this case. And if people lost money based on these statements, they should be made whole, and we'll see if that happens, and we'll go through this trial as it continues to unfold.